Welcome to the Heart-Centered Entrepreneur Podcast. I want you to be rich. Yes, I want abundant financial success for your business. But I don't just care about your business making money. I care about you too. I want you to be rich in happiness, in the impact you make, in your relationships, and in how you give back. I'm Anna. I built my six-figure business as a side hustle while I was pregnant with my daughter in 2016. Now I've helped dozens of women do the same. I'm here to help you build a profitable, heart-centered, fully booked business with the latest tips on sales and visibility, with proven mindset hacks, and sneak peeks behind the scenes with what's working right now in the online space and in my business. Ready to make more money with heart? Let's go. Hi, friends. I'm so excited to welcome you to this chat with Liz Kent, business coach, licensed therapist, also recently back from international travel, also a very kind human. She is in my mastermind. So I just have the beautiful privilege of getting to know, this week she put, okay, girls, I'm going to host a co-working session. She is that mom that's so busy, but always makes time for the people she loves, for her clients, for the things she loves. So I'm so excited to have her share today about what she does, which is help therapists and other women business owners with their businesses, talk about boundaries, money mindset, being a mom, all the things. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you so much. That was such a kind introduction. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today, as I always love talking with you.
Yes, I love it. If people are just now meeting you, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am Liz and I live in Maryland. I have 3 kids, 10, 8, and 5. So I live with them, my husband, and my English bulldog who just tore her ACL. So that's been really fun. And I've been a therapist for almost 2 decades, over 17 years. My specialty in therapy is maternal mental health. And so I love working with moms, everything from preconception through parenting. And then I really became passionate about coaching and have niched down to coaching, helping therapists and other wellness providers scale or start their business in a way that feels really aligned and works for their life as a busy mom with young kids.
I love that. Since we both have motherhood in common, I would love to know for you, maybe tell me a little bit about what your childhood was like, and or what do you feel like were the pieces of you as a little girl that are still here today in your work?
Oh gosh, that's a hard question. I think just a personality trait is that I've always been very loyal. Then loyalty is a very high value for me. So the people that are important to me are very important to me. And I'm social and friendly and I can talk to lots of people, but the people that I really care about, I really care about. And I was an only child till I was 8.5. So I was kind of I'm a little bit introverted in that I like to be alone. I got used to being alone. I loved having a sibling once he came along, but there was a lot of my life that I was kind of like an only child. So
I can relate to that. I was 6 when my sister was born. So I remember all of it, right? I remember being at my aunt's house while my sister was at the hospital. And it is an interesting experience to have a sibling, but be an only child for a bit.
yeah. And it's interesting for him too, because he was 10 when I went to college. So he is kind of an only child too, because a lot of his childhood that he remembers, he was in the house mostly by himself. So it's just it's interesting now that we're both adults. And
I think about that a lot too, because, I try to do these dates with my kids where I take one kid out just to have time with me and them. But I think about family, if I didn't have the resources for that, right? To hire a babysitter or have family, support a family, or maybe I was in an era where I had 9 children, like a lot of women did in the olden days, right? It really has me thinking through is there a better or worse as far as when we grow up as an only child or with many siblings, or is there an ideal scenario, or is it just what we make of the scenario,
yeah, I mean, I think there's always a piece of it of what we make of it, but I really love watching my kids interact with each other, and they're much closer. From the oldest to the youngest is less than 5 years. So they're all pretty close in age, and just seeing their relationships with each other is one of the most heartwarming things. And I love when they help each other or just, they were just eating animal crackers. And one of them, my daughter loves the penguins. And my youngest was like pulling out all the penguins and was like, here, I got the penguins for you. Just when they're like thoughtful and kind. And it's, you learn a lot of life lessons having siblings that make you more adaptable, I think, with people in general. And that's important lessons.
It is so interesting watching those family dynamics, right?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Yes. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about balancing motherhood and business? One of the parts of your business that I most impressed about, obviously a lot of them, but how you really scaled your therapy practice during the pandemic with
Mhm.
very tiny humans at home. Like maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that was crazy. I mean, even starting when I first started my therapy practice, my older two were like 3 and 1.5. So they were pretty little. And then during the pandemic, they were 5, 3, and my youngest was 5 months when the COVID shutdown happened. So I, at that time, had several other therapists working for me in my practice, and we had to totally pivot to virtual sessions, which we really had not done very much of at all prior to that. And it was really hard. It was really hard to just kind of navigate all of that. And I feel like it took me a long time to emotionally recover from because you were just like in that constant like trying to keep your kids entertained and I got to do this stuff for my business. And initially, everybody was kind of worried and didn't know what was going to happen. But then after we were in COVID for a few months, like that's my population, moms were pretty stressed. So our referrals just skyrocketed and we were all like busting at the seams on our caseload. So which was great, but it was a lot in retrospect, it was a lot. But I was just thinking like the other day about how there was something like so beautiful about that time of being home with our kids a lot and not really having all these like plans and places to go and that I would just play in the backyard with them or we do a lot of walks in the neighborhood and kind of that slowing down was really there's something really great about that too. So it was very hard at the time, but I learned a lot and I got through it. So
Yeah, kind of interesting, like eras of survival. I feel like it's true. Like in eras of survival, I feel like we accomplished so much. And then we look back and we're like, oh my goodness, like, wow, that's kind of wild that I was able to do that. Like, manage the team of therapists and be with three tiny humans and yourself survive the pandemic too, right?
yeah, with no childcare help. And my husband decided that in addition to his full-time job, he was also going to start a company during that time.
Why
So
not?
it was
Why
like
not?
nuts. And yeah, I was like, maybe not the most ideal time to like add something else to our plates here, but we got through it. We learned a
Yeah,
lot.
you did. Talk to us too about obviously you serve women now in your business and in your therapy practice, but I'm just curious too more about like your background in like maternal mental health and s- for moms that work, whether it's corporate or entrepreneur stuff, and also have kids, like what do you find are some of the biggest challenges that they face?
I think just like managing everything is so hard and trying to show up fully in both places. I remember like coming back from maternity leave with my first and my boss telling me I worked for like like a special ed school at the time. And she was like, you just can't be 100% at home and 100% at work anymore. And you just have to like be okay with that. And for, like a high achieving, perfectionistic kind of person, that's really hard to hear. And so I feel like I hear that kind of struggle with the adapting to like not doing everything, not being able to keep up with all even the basic things, especially initially with a baby. Um, and then trying to keep track of all the mental load stuff is just hard. And I also see a lot of moms because I think women are having babies older, like they're
Yes.
older, and so they're more established, like in their careers or in their life routines, and so that transition then to not having all of that time for yourself is really hard. And the co-parenting piece, then like learning how to navigate a relationship if you have a partner with, as parents together is really challenging. And when moms start to like really pick up the mental load, that is something that comes up all the time. with my therapy.
Yeah. So, like going back to that like first comment that you made or that your boss had said to you, but you can't be 100% both.
Mhm.
It's an interesting concept because like in some ways I agree with that, right? But in other ways and maybe this is cuz I have older kids now, right? Like 8 and 10, and I feel like I can be 100% mom and worker bee. But I also think that's because I realize that like 100% mom doesn't mean I'm with my kids 24/7.
Yeah.
In fact, I feel like they're served better when I'm not, like that they
Mm.
have the influence of other people, right? So it feels like I can still be 100% mom and 100% present without being 100% in the same room with them all the time. But I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, but I think that takes a really long time to learn that,
To
that
get
it's
to get to that
get to
place.
that point of
Yeah.
being okay with not having
The control.
the mom guilt of like not doing enough or not being enough or not being available all the time. I think navigating the guilt that moms have for not being able to like do, to feel like they're all doing all the things that they feel like they should be doing in both arenas.
That's so true. Cause I do remember times where yeah, exactly. Like I felt like I remember like when I first was dropping my son off to preschool, like I just had so much guilt for bringing him there for like 2.5 hours. Right. Because until I realized like, oh, maybe it's not my job to be with him every minute. Maybe my job is to just ensure that the adults who are with him are kind and value aligned. And yeah, just that duality of like, what can we control? What can't we control? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even just like when your kids ask you to do things, I've sort of like learned what to pick and choose, that, the things that I really don't like doing with them, being okay with saying like, I don't really want to do that, but maybe I'll play this card game with you or do something else with you, or do it for like a limited amount of time so that I'm navigating that, like I'm still doing the thing that they're asking me to do, but I'm not doing it for like so long that it's
Yes.
terrible. Um, but yeah, I think just the mom guilt of like not being enough and our just the cultural influences that we get of like all these things we're supposed to be living up to all these standards and in our homes and as partners and as moms and as professionals. And it's just that's not attainable.
Yeah. What advice would you give to a mom who is struggling with balancing needs at work and needs at home?
It is so important to take care of yourself first. And I feel like we get that message, but we don't really internalize it. And knowing that you have to prioritize your own well-being and really starting with the basics with that. Like, I think, we think of like, oh, well, if I just go get a pedicure or have a girls' night out, like maybe that's enough, but that's not really the stuff that's going to like sustain you. And so, really taking care of like your sleep, your eating habits, your getting movement, like all of those, carving out time to be able to prioritize those things and really focus on your well-being is so important, even when it is really hard when you're busy and it doesn't feel like you have any energy left for that.
I love that. What correlation do you feel like that self care has to being able to balance everything?
I think it just gives you like the sense of routine, gives the sense of control. And also, just like if your nervous system is regulated, you're able to manage stress better, you're able to think more clearly, make decisions more clearly. If you're sleeping well because your nutrition is good and you got movement in, then you're going to wake up feeling more rested. I know I'm always less grouchy. Like I notice I get more grouchy if like my routines get off or I haven't slept well or I was away and eating junk or whatever, that having those kind of like baseline things taken care of puts me in like a better mood and able to like adapt more um, when things get more hectic, whether that's like with work or with kids.
I love that you said like getting to like baseline. I feel like I lived a lot of my motherhood life like not so not at baseline,
Yeah.
right? Like baseline was like just this like far off idea of like, oh, a shower, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Being able to recognize that, like, it's okay to take a shower by yourself or like go to the bathroom by yourself. Like, you can walk away from your kids or if you need to. It's okay to walk away and take a break from them if they're overstimulating you. Or I communicate that stuff to my kids as they're like also a little bit older, like I need a break, or like this is too much noise going on in the house for me right now. Like it's making me feel stressed, so that they also are aware of like other people's needs and not just their own, which I hope the goal is to create like some sense of empathy and awareness of other
Yeah,
people and that too.
that that is an interesting like philosophical conversation I have with my girlfriends too around like I think the generation that raised us, right? Really in some ways like it was like put down your own needs at the expense of other people's needs and or the perception of the community, right? But I
Mhm.
wonder if my parenting and or our parenting as a generation has gone to the other element of like I feel like I'm working with my kids on like yes, your needs and your voice is important, but what about other people in the classroom, right? What about like you said thinking of others, being aware, not interrupting, like what are some of your thoughts or advice on I guess that is we're working on that as mamas.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, kids are just kind of egocentric, like because they're just learning. But I think just like the more conversations we can have, like exactly what you just said, like pointing those things out, like what about this other person? Or like, can you think about it from this person's perspective, so that they're having some sense of like how somebody thinks about something outside of who they are. Even like when we have people in our life that we care about, but they maybe disagree with like something my husband and I believe, and the kids will get kind of like defensive of like us about that. And I'm like, well, it's okay if people believe different things, being able to just have that communication with them and talk to them. I think sometimes we like underestimate how much kids can have those kinds of conversations. Or it's just, it's, another level of emotional labor to like think about it and do it. And that can be hard too, but it is really important for them to learn how to be kind humans and good people. And that's, one of my biggest goals is that they're kind and care about people. So modeling that and talking to them about it.
So interesting, right? I lately, so when my kids were really little, we did like book time, but then for a little while, we didn't really do books as much. But I've kind of returned to book time. And we have like this like history book we're reading, and also this book about like philosophy and like kind of like being a kind human or whatever. Cause I'm like, okay, I need help with this. But it just is so interesting to think through the things that and I hear what you're saying, like all kids are egocentric or whatever, but like as a child, I don't remember being need to be taught that. Like I was selfless to a fault. Like
Yeah.
I needed to be taught like, and I didn't learn till I was 30, like it's okay to center yourself. So I
Yeah.
think it's just so interesting parenting kids, or I don't know if it's my kids in particular. I don't know if it's the generation. I just sometimes I don't know if it's because someone's a boy and someone's a girl, right? Like, but it's just so interesting to parent someone that's different than you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That is hard. And I think it's interesting too what you just said, because I feel like a lot of clients that I work with actually, you, I haven't looked recently, but at one point I had looked, my entire therapy caseload was all eldest or only daughters in their family. And I
Okay.
know you're the oldest, I'm the
Yes.
oldest. And so I think that there's also some like other influences, like cultural,
Mhm.
like what was happening at the time, the way our parents parented. But I think specifically for like women who were in that role of kind of like having to be selfless all the time or
Yeah.
take responsibility or being parentified. Um, and how that just sort of like amplifies the like guilt and shame that then we feel as adults, and really being able to like unlearn some of those patterns, which is
Yeah.
so hard to be doing that while you're also like trying to figure out how to parent. You're like parenting yourself while you're parenting your own kids. Like that's so much work.
Yeah. It's just wild to me, like exactly like you said, like some of the thoughts that flow so freely from my children's mouth, right? Like yesterday, one of my children said, like, when I have enough money, I just want to spend my life traveling and like laying on an island. I'm like, that would even like I'm crying, like, but it
Yeah.
is really awe-inspiring to me how
Yeah.
different our brains are. That like I had to really condition myself into that, you know? So it
Yeah.
is just from the mouth of babes. And this is a great transition too. So like when you are working with your clients that are therapists, maybe they're firstborn girls, or like maybe share with us a little bit about the sticking points you're seeing for your clients, for therapists, for women in their money mindset as they're working to grow their business, some of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think the perfectionistic piece, or like feeling like you have to have it all figured out before you can actually like take the next step. And I think specifically for therapists, just like the confidence in being able to be a business owner is something you really have to like become aware of and work on, because that's not how we're trained. It's not how we're taught. I mean, my master's is in social work, so particularly in that, it was like a badge of honor to be poor, like we went around saying, I'm not in it for the money. Um, so then really being able to like fix your mindset and think about like, well, how am I going to make a life out of this and build a business around it takes a lot of mindset work. And I think for me particularly, as you know, like the money mindset stuff has been, I think I've done more like emotional work around money mindset in the last 6 months than I have done emotional work in therapy and like years of therapy, because so many like ingrained ideas about my value, what I'm worth, like, can I ask for more? Am I not being grateful if I want more? And really like grappling with those questions and trying to figure out what that looks like. Um, for me as a business owner and as a mom and as someone who loves to travel, but like also, likes to support good causes and things like that. Like, how do you, and I want to have a nice life, a comfortable life. So how do you kind of like navigate all that, and just sort of sorting through all of that in our own brains, I think can be really hard.
The hardest work, but giving you so much credit. I'm so proud of you for being willing to do it, right? I can resonate so much that I felt like I did a lot of personal development work, to get my therapy degree and all of that, right? But I think in entrepreneurship, I'm just so lucky that I found a good coach, because really it is so much emotional work. The as you're selling, getting visible, making money, hiring a team, having clients, like it's just so messy and brings up, just like parenting is such a mirror. I
Yeah.
feel like business is the biggest mirror that we didn't want, and we're like, go away. And so just giving you credit though from not shying away from that work.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I think, so much of your support has been helpful in that, and just being able to talk about or think through like, okay, well, I want more, but it's not just because I like have all these selfish ambitions. Like, I also want to be able to like go out to dinner with friends and be like, I got the bill this time, don't worry about it. Or, just other generous things, or like to travel so that my kids can experience other places and see the world and all of that. So like there's good reasons for wanting more. And so really trying to like, I think it's still a process of getting myself in that mindset of like, it's okay to keep like, pursuing more. Um, and in doing work that I also feel like is fulfilling and helping people and stuff, because it's, our culture often underpays those kinds of professions. And so like if you're a service in just, in some kind of service role, you're usually not paid, compensated what you should be. So just thinking about your own worth and value.
Yes, I totally agree. And I mean, I even think like 100 years ago, most of these careers like really didn't exist. Like I even think about when we were children, like therapy wasn't really even that popular, like, and so it's just interesting to see how the skills as women, right? Like we're just now kind of being paid for our soft skills. And so it is interesting to be like, okay, not only am I getting paid, but like, what would it look like to be paid like very, very well for a soft skill that historically women were not paid for and that I actually enjoy?
Yeah. Yeah. It almost seems like a dream, like
Yeah,
it's like
100%.
what I'm like dreaming, but I don't know if it's actually realistic. So being able to work towards that has been a lot of self-growth and kind of like looking inward and looking at my own goals and what I desire. And so it's been a journey for sure.
I resonate a lot with that language of like it feels like a dream. Like I feel like especially when I first started making like massive money online, I would oscillate between like pinch me, this feels like a dream, this feels too good to be true, slash I feel like a scammer and I feel like I'm doing something unethical. Like so, there's some like my nervous system was just like not computing, right?
Yeah.
Number one, just receiving money directly, like getting these random deposits of money in my account
Yeah.
just was bizarre, right? Like not
Yeah.
like the stable paycheck, like, oh, I get paid on this day of the month. Like it was just very dysregulating to get a lot of money deposited, right? And then oscillating between like, wow, this is so amazing. And then also like, this can't be it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And also because you've found such a good balance of being able to work on part-time hours and have a lot of time for hobbies and interests and other things in your life. And I think that's like a mind game too, where for women, where we're like, we got to work harder to get it. We got to keep working. And when I reflect back and like really step outside and think about it, and I'm like, I've worked pretty freaking hard up to this point. I'm not really giving myself credit for what all the work, because some of it is like emotional labor and things that you can't aren't as tangible too. Um, and it hasn't been this clear linear, like climbing the corporate ladder to get to this point or putting in 80-hour weeks or whatever, but it still was a lot of hard work.
Exactly. And I think entrepreneurship really is, it's not that linear trade off, right? And I think that's why there's more room for profit margin, right? Because the owner of the business, whether it's a coaching business or a restaurant or whatever, right? Like they're really getting paid well because of the risk they're willing to take, right?
Yeah.
Because of the mindset work that their waitresses were upset with them about blah, 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 right? Like that's what you're really getting paid for, not your hourly work in some ways. And so it is interesting.
Yeah. Well, plus it is hard to turn your brain off as an entrepreneur. So it's not like going to a 9 to 5 and just clocking out and going home at the end of the day. Like ideas pop into my brain at all hours of the day. And I can't control that. So it's just like something that's, having the business is part of like what's ingrained in me of what I think about. So
There is like the blessing and the curse of it being the same thing, right? The blessing is like it's our passion, so we enjoy the work, right? But then the downside is like, okay, but who am I outside of that passion?
yeah, for sure. And I think that is something I've talked with you before about, and even in just transitioning from like therapist to coach, and like therapist being my identity for so long, that then calling myself a coach, a business coach, has been really hard to kind of like own that. And even though I know that I do have the experience and the skills and things to be able to do that, and I love doing that. I like being able to help women in that position. But when something is like part of your identity for so long, it's hard to kind of pivot from that.
It like let's talk about that for a second too before we wrap up. Like whether someone is doing a pivot to start their therapy practice or whether it's a pivot to scale their therapy practice or to become a mother or what are some of your biggest tips for women as they're navigating a change?
I think having support, whether that's like a community, friends, a therapist, a coach, like having somebody who's maybe walked that, is a little bit further ahead of you, can give you advice or support or just empathy, like just being able to like be in it with you. Um, and so that you don't feel, it doesn't feel so like isolating. And because that's when we get in our heads and think like, are we doing something wrong? Because we're in it, like overthinking it alone in our heads. Um, and I think doing the mindset work, like being willing to do the work and being willing to like open up yourself to something new. Like it's very scary to take a pivot. It's very scary to start a business or to grow a business or to become a mom. And so But I think the more vulnerable and authentic we all are in talking about that, like the less it feels like a stigma, because really that's how all moms feel. Like we're really not that different in how we experience it. We just think that we're all having a harder time than all the other women around us. So I think the community piece and then just being able to like be authentic about it. I found that as working with so many women, that the more that I just am truthful about like motherhood is hard, like entrepreneurship is hard, that people are like, yeah, it is. Like they resonate with that, where if nobody's saying it, we all just think the other person is like doing great and we're the only ones, struggling or having a hard time getting to the next step of whatever goal we want.
I love that you said that. I 100% agree, right? Like having that community, especially like I think as our world is getting more siloed, more overwhelming, more AI-ish, right? Like I think like nothing is going to replace women connecting with each other, and like we're just built and wired to need each other and to need community, but so often we make ourselves wrong for that, like, oh, I need to figure it out on my own, or I can do this, right? Like I think especially as like I identify with being like hyper independent sometimes. What suggestions would you recommend for women that, I'm fortunate that like I live next to my parents and like all that type of stuff and move back to the city that I was born in, but for women that maybe like are in a new city or a new environment, like what are some of your favorite tips for creating new connections, friendships, all of that?
Well, you could be like me and just talk to anyone wherever you are. I'm always like, just start talking to people at the playground or the library or anybody that looks like they're in like a semi-related stage of life, or even like aren't, even when they have younger kids. I'll just like start talking to them. But all that to say, I think you have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit and step outside your comfort zone. And whether that's like, joining some kind of activity, book club, hobby, or going to like even going to the same playground at the same time every Saturday morning so that you see the same faces and starting to, say hi and start connections with people, which is hard and scary, but remembering that like a lot of moms, especially in early parenthood, like feel really alone. And so probably they're going to be happy to talk to you, just like you're going to be happy to talk to them. But yeah, putting yourself out there and finding something that you like to do and doing, whether that's a class at the gym or something at your church or something that you're already interested in. So you can find women that you connect with, and sticking with it, because you might not meet your new best friend like immediately, but being consistent and persevering through when it might feel a little bit lonely, knowing that you can come out with some really good friendships on the other side.
I love that reminder. I think too, like I always try to, I feel like you are so friendly. Like that is definitely one of your like natural talents. For me, I think I try to always like plant, especially locally. Like I feel like online it's easier for me, but in person, like I try to always remind myself like it's safe to plant little friendship seeds, right? That way there's no pressure on like that person becoming your best friend overnight or something, right? But like someone planted a friendship seed with me at the gym that I work at. Like it was my birthday and she just like gave me a really tiny birthday gift. And I was like, oh, that like I didn't even really know her. But after that, I was like, we should exchange numbers. And then we ended up hanging out and like becoming really good mom friends, right? But I think like you're right, just someone has to do something first. And then if she would have given me that tiny gift and I wouldn't, then it's okay. We would have just gone on. But like that was her little cue to me that like I didn't even notice her before, right? Vice versa. I've also done that with women where there's like a mom friend at my kid's school where I like we were at the basketball game together. I just like sat next to her and like introduced myself, And so I think it's like planting those little seeds, but like not worrying about if things work out or not.
Yeah, not holding on to the idea of it too tightly. And also, I think for like the woman who gave you the gift, remembering that if you do reach out and someone doesn't respond, like trying not to take it personally, that it might not
Yes.
have anything to do with you. They might just be in a really stressful period of their life, or they can't manage any more connections or relationships, or they're just like super scattered and forgetful and just never followed up or whatever. So,
And then
uh,
they're not the friend for you anyway, because your
yeah,
friends are people that will want you.
yeah. And like not to take that personally and just, okay, move on to the next person. So, yeah, but it's hard. I think it is really hard to make adults or make friends as adults.
Yes, I agree. Okay, this is so beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Can you tell us if people have been listening, love your story, resonate with your heart, how they can continue to connect with you?
Yeah. So the best way to connect with me is on Instagram. You can follow me at Liz Kent Coaching. And I would love to hear from anyone who's listening what they thought of today or if they have any questions. And for anyone who's thinking about starting or scaling a therapy practice, I am offering a free mini coaching session. It's my Profit Power session where we'll really look at what your goals are and what the next step is to take towards that so that you can feel more independent in your business and feel like you have that time and financial flexibility and freedom that we all want. So,
I love that. I love that you offer those because I think as a former therapist, there's just so many therapist specific things that I struggled with that I just feel like most ordinary people wouldn't. Like I spent an ungodly amount of time Googling, is it ethical to coach? Like, am I allowed to coach? Like
mhm.
just feeling like because we had been so ingrained of being ethical and everything, like it just I feel like it took me so long to unwire even being allowed to want to do something outside of therapy.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, there's so many like little rules. There's so much fear around like
So
doing something
much fear,
wrong,
so
getting
much fear.
audited, or like, I don't know. I've been a therapist for 17 years and like I've never been audited by an insurance company. I mean, I don't take insurance anymore, but I've been audited by my board twice for like
But
my
you were fine, but you were
that was
fine, right? They
fine.
make it
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, if you're gonna review by the board, then your whole life is gonna end and all your family members are gonna die." Like, that's what
Yeah.
it felt like. Instead of like, "Okay, if you get reviewed and you didn't do anything wrong, then you don't need to be afraid of it," right?
I like literally changed my name from getting married and then got like my independent license like within a year. So I changed my license like twice in that time period. And after both times they audited me because they were like, why is she changing? It must have like flagged something. But yeah, but it was totally fine. I don't
100%.
even
So
think about it ever.
I love that you're that safe space for those specific for people that have such a big heart and such an important skill set, right? But really allowing them to monetize in a diverse amount of ways.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Thank you for being here, Liz.
Thank you so much for having me, Anna. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks for hanging out today. Please hit that subscribe button so you can make sure to stay updated anytime a new episode drops. And I would love for you to join me in my free Facebook community. It's called The Heart Centered Entrepreneur. We discuss the podcast episodes. I regularly go live and do free trainings. And you may even meet your newest biz bestie. So you can join at heartcenteredcommunity.com. It's absolutely free, and I cannot wait to see you in there.